Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a special meeting of the Board of Education. We're going to have fun tonight, I'm sure, and hear from some great members of the community, and hopefully come out with a decision on a replacement for a board vacancy. So I would like to hereby call the meeting to order, and I would ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand, place your right hand over your heart, and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, thank you so much. Okay, we are moving to item 1.3, and that's adoption of the agenda. Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded that we approve the agenda. Now, we have one item that we failed to note on the agenda, and that is public comments. We'd like to do so as item 2.0. And so, if with that amendment, okay, let's please, thank you. Please vote. I think our colors work. So that's great. Abigail would be joining us, but she is in Sacramento and unable to make it back in time. I know she sends her regrets. So let's move to item 2.0, if we might. And Dr. Volkamer, do we have any public comment?
Mr. Gallo, we do have one comment from Carl Greenwood, CSCA president. We'll invite him to the podium.
Come on down, Carl. How's your first couple weeks been? Nice going.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Just wanted to inform you that last Wednesday, we had our final meeting on who we would be supporting for the board. And it goes as follows. Number 1 would be Michael Gallo. Number 2 would be Margaret Hill. Number 3 would be Gwendolyn Rogers, and number 4 would be Kaiser Hamed. So we had a series of meetings to where they came and they spoke and got a chance to talk to the CSCA members. And last Wednesday was the vote, and that's who we'll be supporting in the upcoming elections. So just want to let you know.
Appreciate it, Carl. Thank you.
We'll be contacting you with how we're going to do things. So we're available for phone banking or anything you guys need, and we'll go from there.
Anything we need, Carl? I'm just
To a
kidding.
point.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you, Carl. All right, any further public comment? Dr. Volkamer? No. Okay. And I think we can, any more? No, okay. We can move to session 3, it will be, board vacancy candidate statements. And we're going to be receiving some instructions from Dr. Kagan Tashigian, who will be he serves as a consultant to our board and has done so over the last few years now. And the purpose of this meeting, as agendized, is for us to obviously receive candidate statements and fill the board vacancy through this appointment process. We'll hear the 10 candidate statements who submitted their names and the registrar of voters determined as eligible for the appointment to the vacant board seat. And candidates will be called in one at a time and be allowed up to 5 minutes to make a statement to the board as to why the board should select them or appoint them to the new vacant seat. And Dr. Kagam will be serving as our consultant, as I mentioned, and is going to help us facilitate the process. And I'd like to invite Kagam to come to the podium, and if you could describe the process for us and let the members of the public, along with reminding the board, what we're going to do, and then we'll be using that process and invite our candidates to come in and speak.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. You have in front of you the schedule for the appointment, for the interviews, not the interviews, for the statements that the candidates will be making. There is a break after the the sixth candidate, but I'd like to recommend to the board that if you would take the break in the boardroom, you may go one at a time and do what you need to do so that the public wouldn't get even the inkling that there may be some conversation about candidates outside of the boardroom. I would appreciate that if that could be done.
So we'll do that about 7:30, it looks like here?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
We've sent-
Why don't we just, if they're only going to speak for 5 minutes, why don't we just get done before the break? You have them scheduled for 15 minutes, but they're only going to speak for 5 minutes, right?
Correct. Well, there is
So-
time for the candidates to be brought from the holding room where they are. There will be time for the board members to do their markings following the candidate statement. And in order for candidates not to overlap, we allowed 15 minutes between candidates.
Well, and maybe the question could be is if, when we come to 7:30, if the other candidates are here and we are ahead of schedule, maybe we could do that. I don't know if that influences the time of arrival for some of our candidates.
It more than influencing the time of arrival, let me share with you the first document you will be using, which is the forced ranking. After the candidate makes the statement, the graph you have in front of you, on the first line with the first candidate, the first box obviously would be number 1 out of 1. After the second candidate speaks, then each board member makes a judgment as to whether the top candidate is now number 1 or the second candidate is number 1. And after each candidate that makes their presentation of their statement, the board members will again reevaluate and rank them accordingly. It's not as complex as it looks because the re-ranking will be only for those who are below the rank you give the new candidate. So we go one by one, and we want to make sure that the board has enough time to look at all the elements, all the factors, and then determine their own judgment in terms of the ranking.
So I've never done this before, so I'm not comfortable with that, but, so how does it work again?
Candidate number 1 comes and speaks, and you give him a rank out of the 10, 1.
He or she, okay.
Now, candidate number 2 comes in and speaks. You may find candidate 2 at a higher rank. So you give rank 1 to the candidate 1, you give rank 1 to the candidate 2, and rank 2 to the first candidate. That is, if the second candidate in your estimation delivered a better statement. And the third candidate comes in, then you may find that the third candidate is really rank 3. So the top 2 do not change. Candidate 1 still rank 2, candidate 2 is ranked 1, and candidate 3 is ranked 3 in the third column. There will be time for me to walk the board through each item. So if you look at the total picture, it looks complicated. But what this does, at the end of the process, you will have evaluated each candidate against the peers of candidates and determined as to, of all of them, who is number 1 in your view. And if there are any questions during the process, I will be here to respond to those questions.
And then what happens after that?
The next step would be, after you make that determination as to who your number 1 is, you will have a yellow sheet, and this The forced ranking is yours to keep. We don't collect them. The yellow sheet will be collected. On the yellow sheet, you choose your top 3 candidates. And there will be perhaps 3 different top candidates for each one of you. You select your 3 top candidates, you list them, and then you give them an intensity score. Strong would be a score of 1. Strongest would be a score of 10. And anything in between could be anywhere from 2 to 9. After you complete the scoring, I will collect these forms, and you will need to sign. I will collect these forms, and we have prepared an Excel sheet that will be shown on the screen, and I will read the scores that board members have given to each candidate. And the board members will be anonymous at this point. I will assign board number 1, board number 2, board number 3, and write their scores down. Now, when you look at the total at that point, it might be very obvious that all of you selected the same candidate as the highest scored. Then president can entertain a motion at that time to make an appointment, a motion to appoint.
So the appointment's going to be based on how the scores add up?
How your scores add up. But how the total scores add up, yes, when we do the yellow sheet. The Excel sheet will add all of your scores, which will then give us a true collective score for each candidate.
But we won't know who scored what.
Correct.
I know that's what you guys agreed,
Process.
this is what you guys agreed is a process. I don't think it's a good process. I think you're better off just having someone nominate and take ownership of who they nominate. This, to me,
What?
is too ambiguous. No one knows who's supporting who.
That's correct. And that's not action. Any board member can make a motion for any of the candidates on the board. The only thing that the board does is give you an indication of the total scores that the candidates received. The whole purpose of this is to create greater objectivity in the selection process.
And what we're ranking, is their 5-minute presentation?
Yes.
And how about the resumes they turned in to us?
You reviewed that will enter into your consideration.
And how about what you know about them prior to the presentation and the resume?
It's up to us.
That's your judgment, and you would make a judgment on their rankings.
And when you score, Danny, you'll have all of those things reflected.
So just to reiterate, this force ranking will then bring up the top three candidates
For
for each
individual
one of
board
us,
members,
for each one of us. And then based on that, we'll get the yellow sheet. I haven't seen it yet, but we'll get the yellow sheet, and we will then put our first, second, and third choice, correct?
Correct. Their names, and then give them a
A rated
score.
score from 1 to 10,
Correct.
10 being the strongest. Okay.
Okay, Dr. Hill?
Thank you. I have 2 points I would like to make. Number one, as far as break is concerned, I know our first candidate is coming in at 6 o'clock, which means that candidate should be through by 6:05. I would assume someone with the 6:15, it's just an assumption, with the 6:15 appointment will probably be here by 6. If the person is here, can we kind of adjust and move the time along so we aren't just sitting here 10 minutes?
Correct. Correct.
Having discussion? And then where the break comes, it comes, when there's a lag or what have you, and it may be at the very end. Secondly, I would like to recommend on the ranking sheets, I've done lots of rankings, but I've never done one from like strong to strongest. My number one is gonna be the strongest. So can, instead of adding all these points, so we have to bring out the calculator, can we just add the 1 through 10?
The Excel sheet is going to add it for you. It's already set up, and therefore, we don't need a calculator, we don't need, and no time will be spent. By the time the numbers are entered out of the sheet, the Excel sheet will give us the totals.
Okay, and the only reason I said that, what's strong for one person might not be worth much to the other.
Correct.
And so I was hoping just the ranking would
Yeah.
serve as total, but that's okay, I mean, I can live with it,
Yeah.
I just,
As long as each board member is consistent within himself or herself in making those judgment of the 3 candidates that they selected, then there's really no problem of inconsistency, because we are basically allowing each board member to make his or her own determination and then look at the total board as a body.
But that's not true, though. The problem is you're going 10 to 1. If I make my number 1 10, and the other 2 number 1, I skew the whole process.
If you mix it up, if you change
If I
it,
make my number 1 a 10,
yes,
and the other 2 1s, I skew the process.
correct.
That's not a good thing.
And hopefully, but if, in fact, if one is 10 and the other 2 truly, compared to the person who received 10, is 1, it does not skew the process. That's your perspective of those candidates. Ultimately, it's you who are making the decision, and each one of you will contribute to that score. And therefore, the outcome is going to be a collective decision before you entertain a motion. Then the motion will be made here in public, and you would be voting accordingly. So after we present this information and you see the scores, the board president may look at the scores and say, do I have a motion? Because it's obviously one has exceeded everybody else. If there is no vote that passes, then we go to the next level. The next level would be taking the top 2, again, from the scores, taking the top 2. Each board member will have a ballot sheet that they will write a recommendation, their recommendation for the board seat. And again, we will put this on another sheet on the screen that will show what is the perspective of the board relative to the top 2 candidates. And at that point, hopefully a selection will be made. If that does not result in an action, then we may need to go back and consider perhaps having a second round where you may want to interview or whatever the board wishes to do, because you are deadlocked. Okay? So I will be providing you these sheets as we come to that point. So right now you are only working with the forced ranking sheet that you have in front of you. And then we will move to the next level. Are there any questions?
Harold?
I just wanted to make a comment. Thank you, Mr. Tastian. In relation to Dr. Hill's question, we do have a host for each candidate, and they are in a separate room. So Carla is going to be texting whenever the board's ready for candidate 1, candidate 2, candidate 3. We can move forward more quickly with the process. What we don't want to do, though, is I don't want to say violate, but it's the best word I can think of, Mr. Tastian's communication with the candidate to this point. He's given them a specific time to be here at a specific time. So if they don't come and they're not here, even though they're on time, we wouldn't be able to move forward. But if they are here, we certainly can do that. And Carla's going to be texting to bring candidates forward.
Yeah, and we'll go in the order in which they have been assigned. And just so the board would know, the way they were assigned their time was based on the time they turned in their materials to the superintendent's office. So whoever turned his or her material first was on the top of the list, and whoever is at the bottom of the list is the last one who turned in their papers. So, and we will keep that order throughout this process tonight.
Great.
Any other questions? Okay. We've also asked candidates not to be in the room during the interview, during the statement presentation, in order to provide a level playing field for all candidates. That will then be consistent with all candidates having the same opportunity to speak to the board without the pressure of other colleague candidates that may be in the room. We cannot force them not to come to the room because it's a public meeting. You cannot ask someone not to be there, or you can't force somebody not to be at a public meeting. But they've been asked in the letter that Mr. Gallo signed and we sent to each candidate, and they will be also reminded by the hosts. And then therefore we will make sure. And then there will be further instructions by the board president when the candidate arrives. When the hosts will bring the candidate to me, I will present the candidate to you, and then the board president will proceed.
Now, there's some lights that are going to come on. We're going to explain to candidates that, where are those located? Where are the lights located, and where would the candidates see it? And I'm sorry, I see something, that little box, or, right, I see. Yeah, got it. Okay. And we're going to do the timer, too? Okay, great.
Mr. President, just point of order. Are we sure about the law in terms of a quorum and what percentage of votes we have to have? Because we only have 5 board members here. Are we allowed to appoint somebody on a 3-2 vote with a 7-member board?
Dr. Velkomor, I know you have the information you shared with me earlier today.
Yes, we believe you can. If one of you was to abstain, for example, and it became a 3-1 vote, then it would be the same thing. So you have a majority of the people that are there at any board meeting, as long as you have at least 4 board members at the meeting. So you're okay.
I have one question.
Dr. Hill?
Do we have a candidate who is not a fluent English speaker? Do we have a limited English speaking candidate, to your knowledge?
My knowledge, I don't know.
know,
They
okay.
all submitted their paperwork in English, and we have had no conversation with the candidates.
Okay. And I just thought of that because I looked at the interpreter in the back, and I was just wondering. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to know.
Welcome. If the board is ready. Excuse me, Linda, did you have your hand? Oh, okay.
Well, it's 5:59, so it looks like we're
Oh, wow, our timelines are perfect.
right on time, so.
If we switch the order, it will really make the ranking
Right.
sheet completely invalid.
Yeah,
Because you won't have the sequence in which you can truly establish those ranking. Yes, actually, we need to wait until the next candidate arrives, which their time is 6:15, but it's up to the board if you decide that the candidate was late and therefore he will not have the opportunity to make the presentation if you allow them 10 minutes. That would be your choice.
The only decision they'd be making the only person they'd be making that decision about at this point would be candidate 1,
Correct.
who was scheduled to be here at 6 o'clock and has not shown up. The candidate scheduled for 6:15
And
is not
I'm
late yet.
assuming we let all the candidates know the time frame.
Yes,
We let every candidate know what time they were supposed to be here? Okay,
yes, they were given a very specific time
okay.
for their interview. Absolutely right, Dr. Valkamor. What I said in terms of the problem it will create with the structure, if the first candidate is not here, you just cross
them
that
out?
line and you start with line 2.
Oh, with line 2 as
And it will
one, okay.
keep the integrity of the
Okay.
structure.
and you said about 6:10, that would be,
It's up to the board. I mean, you could make it very strict. If you're not here at the time we gave you, you're not going to have the opportunity. I think that might be a little bit too severe.
let's,
So allowing 5 or 10 minutes would be up to you.
Well, I don't think we should wait to 6:15.
10, maybe.
Yeah, not to 6:15, because then it's gonna throw everybody else off. He'll need to be in and out by 6:15. So,
And another way, if only the first candidate happens with this first candidate, you can go to candidate number 2, and the first candidate will have to wait until the very end. Then it will not compromise the structure.
Okay, thank you, Kagum. Well, we're, what, 6:11, 6:12 almost, so we could, let's, candidate number 2 here. Then let's go ahead. Barbara?
Yes, so could you please give us the direction again in terms, since we don't have the first candidate here? We just cross out the whole name right now?
You can cross out the whole name,
The whole line?
that whole line,
Okay,
and then start as if it's line 2. Should he come at the end, you can always add him to the end, and it would not impact.
okay, so just cross out the whole line.
Yeah.
So this next person is like number 1.
Correct.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
thank you.
This is candidate Esmeralda Regretti.
Good evening.
Great. Ms. Negretti, I'm going to read a few instructions, and as I will to every candidate, and you'll have up to 5 minutes to state to the board why you should be appointed to the vacant seat, and the board will not be asking any questions. When I say your time begins now, the green light in that corner right there will come on, and the timer will be started. And when 1 minute is left, an orange light will come on. And when the timer goes off and the red light comes on, you'll need to stop. We ask that you leave the boardroom at the conclusion of your statement in order to provide all candidates with a consistent experience with the appointment process. And you're welcome to return after 8:45 to be present for the board deliberations. So if you're ready, your time begins now.
Good evening, Esmeralda Negretti, school board candidate. I believe that my top priorities are that we need more learning in the classroom and less disruptions. We need to address disruptions as district-wide. And in order to address those disruptions, I believe that the district needs to have a district-wide plan that will cultivate a manner to address the classroom disruptions without suspending students from the school. We need to have clear communication with our parents in a timely manner. We need to provide them the knowledge of the services that this district has so that they can make wise decisions on how to help their students. We need to make decisions that directly benefit our students. That means that anything that we will utilize or create or enhance should be with students first in mind. I believe that my 13 years of experience working with students, teachers, and parents are beneficial to have an understanding of what the students need to provide a strong school district and promote the goals that our students need. I believe that our teachers need support, especially during this transition of Common Core. It is essential that they have the training, not only to help the students in the classroom, but also to be able to provide the academic support and understanding that is needed. I believe that our parents need to continue to have charters as an opportunity to have options. It is important that our parents have options. Not every student learns in the regular environment. Some of the improvements that I believe need to be made is, of course, communication. Timely communication to allow decisions for the parents. And as I said earlier, I believe that our teachers need support. As a candidate of a school board or as a school board member, I plan to serve our families ethically and I want to be the voice. I want to be an advocate for parents and their teachers and their families. That is the conclusion of my presentation.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Would you like us to invite candidate number 3? Let's go ahead. Mr. President, candidate Danelle Duran.
Hello.
Hi, Danelle. I'm going to read a few instructions, as we're going to do for every candidate, and when I conclude, we'll ask you to start, and we'll begin the timer. So you'll have up to 5 minutes to state to the board why you should be appointed to the vacant seat. The board will not be asking any questions. And when I say your time begins now, the green light will come on, and the timer will be started. There's a green light right there on the corner of this, the dais, and
Thank you.
that will be illuminated. And when 1 minute is left, an orange light will come on. When the timer goes off and the red light comes on, you'll need to stop. And we ask that you leave the boardroom at the conclusion of your statement in order to provide candidates with a consistent experience with the appointment process. And you're welcome to return after 8:45 to be present for the board deliberations. And I'd ask you to please proceed, and your time begins now.
Thank you very much. The Board of Education governing body responsibilities include adopting a budget annually and also approving expenditures, approving curriculum and courses of study, and approving textbook purchases, planning for building and construction needs, and hiring personnel. They provide direction for operating the district through actions taken at its meetings on the first and third Tuesdays, and they're elected for a 4-year term. I know this is nothing new to you, since you do that already, and that's what I plan on doing. You also develop policies by which the educational programs and other business of the district are carried out. The proposed policies require 2 public readings prior to final adoption to allow for citizen comment. I was excited to find out that San Bernardino Unified School District was founded in 1964, 51 years ago. But not only that, it's the 8th largest school district in California. 49,396 students are benefited by your district. 49 elementary schools, 10 middle schools, and 8 high schools, 3 special education schools, and of course, San Bernardino Adult School, which is now going to be called the Inland Empire Career Connection. There are 3 alternate programs, and one of them is the National Blue Ribbon Schools Program. 2 schools qualify for that, the Richardson Prep High Middle School and the Middle College High School. 16 California distinguished schools are in this district, and 13 charter schools hold 39,002 students. 97% of your students are having reduced lunches or free lunches here in your district. There's also a Golden Bell Award program. Several of these programs I'm sure you've heard of. Sankofa, Be Still, CalSafe Teen Parents. The one I really liked was City of Readers, because I was trying to make sure we keep our libraries open here. And Middle College High School, along with San Manuel Partnership. There's a dual immersion program in 9 schools. What that means is that the core curriculum, instruction, and practice is taught both in English and in Spanish. This was an interesting electronic question answered very well, I thought. The academic performance index scores went from a total of 577 in 2002, all the way up in 2013 to 729 out of 800. That says a lot for your district. There's also what's called a community engagement plan. Strategic planning comes along with applied learning, learning beyond the boundaries, coaching and mentoring, internships and externships. High expectations are required for all, both academically and behaviorally. That's a big word. There are networks of alliances. Colleges and careers are all geared to 21st century demands. Resources, acquisition and allocation, success and accountability, and health, wellness, and safety are all part of it. Something San Bernardino has a lot to be proud of is recent happening in your newest school, and that's your first graduating class at Indian Springs. I talked to Dr. Alan Kay today. He's such an exciting person. I talked about his 3D printer program with Loma Linda University, how students are going to have a place to not only learn, but get careers, and that is amazing. I'm Danelle Duran, and I have an MBA, gone to school basically all my life. I just actually was accepted to a program in 2009 in Denver, Colorado, a nursing school program. So there's no stopping learning. There's plenty to learn at any age. As an involved community member, I wish to see businesses, churches, government, and all kinds of agencies partner with our students so they can have the possibility of reaching their full potential. I think I can help with that, not only because I came up through the school system in California while I was working and raising a son, and did it with no student loans. So it's exciting what's happening here in San Bernardino.
Thank you so much, Danelle.
Mr. President, Gwendolyn Rogers, candidate.
Gwen, how are you?
I'm fine, and you?
Great. I'm going to read a statement that we have been reading to each of the candidates, and you will have up to 5 minutes to state to the board why you should be appointed to the vacant seat. The board will not be asking any questions, and when I say your time begins now, the green light will come on and the timer will be started. The green light's on the corner of that, you see, series of lights there. And when 1 minute is left, an orange light will come on, and when the timer goes off and the red light comes on, you'll need to stop. We ask you to leave the boardroom at the conclusion of the statement in order to provide all candidates with a consistent experience with the appointment process, and you're welcome to return after 8:45 to be present for the board deliberations. So I'm ready to tell you to please proceed, and your time begins now.
Good evening, Mike Gallo, President of the Board, and to the board members. It is nice to see you on tonight. My name is Gwen Dowdy Rogers, and I am a lifetime resident of San Bernardino City and a graduate of San Bernardino High School. I'm a wife and a mother and a student. I have students currently attending Cajon High School, and I just returned from enrolling my other Cajon High School graduate at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. So I'm fresh off the plane. And no, we never had any worries in our house that I am a true Cardinal. I hold a Bachelor's of Science in Social Work and a Master's in Human Resource Management and Management. I have 20 years background in finance management, working for American General Financial Corporation, and I currently work for EMQ Families First as a Community Development Specialist, Civic and Government Relations, where I advocate on the behalf of foster youth. I am a community leader and a parent advocate, championing hope as a hope maker, also embracing San Bernardino's community engagement plan strategy, in particular, high expectations for all. As a parent advocate, I am an active volunteer on numerous state boards, such as the California Department of Education Welcoming Environment Task Force. I am also a volunteer on several San Bernardino City Unified School District committees, such as the grading policy, A through G readiness, customer service, and I've spent numerous hours as a subcommittee member in the LCAP process, to name a few. I am also a chair on parent advisory councils for the San Bernardino City Unified School District, one of which I am most proud of as the president of the District African American Advisory Council, DAC, and as president of Cajon's African American Parent Advisory Council, APAC. Parent participation was raised by 80%, and many parents became engaged and involved in the process to help their students succeed, and where many were recognized for their efforts for the first time. I also work directly with teachers and principals at numerous school sites in various capacities. My presence tonight is to seek appointment to the San Bernardino City Unified School Board and to continue my work supporting parents and students at the district towards the success of our students for the following reasons. I believe in authentic parent and student engagement that lead to parent involvement. Parents must be educated through consistent, welcoming environments and learn how to remain involved in their students' success from K through 12th grade. They must be invited, as I like to say, Walt Disney's successful statement was, to be our guests, to fully understand their options as a parent. I believe in students' safety, and their success must be our main focus, and students must be involved in and at the table that represent their success. I believe teachers, parents, and student relationships are crucial towards success and must be supported by all. Therefore, partnerships must be meaningful and inclusive. I also believe in culturally relevant teaching techniques and sound fiscal responsibility that identifies and duplicates excellence. Our children are our valuable assets. Therefore, we must make every effort to ensure that there is equity for all students. In closing, the work I do and have done in the community and in the schools embraces hope. My HOPE acronym is having opportunities presented every day. As a school board member, I will continue to work collaboratively and professionally while focusing on positive opportunities for schools, parents, students, teachers, the district, and the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, this is candidate Robert Fick.
Great. Good evening, Robert.
Good evening.
I'm going to read a short statement here. It'll be just some instructions for tonight's addressing the board, and you'll have up to 5 minutes to state to the board why you should be appointed to the vacant seat. The board will not be asking any questions, and when I say your time begins now, the green light will come on and the timer will be started. The green light is right on the corner of the dais, and the timer is in orange letters, or numbers, not letters. And when the timer goes off and the red light comes on, you'll need to stop. There is, by the way, a 1 minute, when 1 minute is left, an orange light will come on. And we'll ask you to leave the boardroom at the conclusion of your statement in order to provide all candidates with a consistent experience with the appointment process. And you're welcome to return after 8:45 p.m. to be present for the board deliberations. So I'm ready to ask you to please proceed, and your time begins now.
Thank you. All right, it's going to be short. First of all, I can provide you a lot of breadth in your area as well as depth. I'm familiar with 5 subject fields that none of you, or to my knowledge, have been trained in. Those are economics, political science, business, public administration, sociology, and functionally, I can function in those disciplines. Secondly, my experience greatly exceeds my education. And as such, when you run management programs, you fuse the knowledge and the experience together, and then you have the expertise. I'm in quite a few fields, as you can tell. And at one time, I was a consultant of the commanding officer, and when I made recommendation in confidence, he would forget and say implement, so I had line authority too. So anytime I made recommendations, quite often I implemented them. In the field of management development, you either produce or get out. You're not manipulating grades and degrees in order to give them incentive. And so you usually move a lot of subject matter. The other point is that as you can see, my teaching experience is very broad. I can deal with adult education. I deal with people that you've never taught. Actually, managers. I've even had a controller of major corporations as students. I've had PhDs as students, both non-credit and credit. And I also taught in Mexico. So I'm familiar with economic and social change and regional economic and change and organizational change. As you see, my study of Los Angeles County bureaucracy was quite exhaustive. And I used all scaling devices. So in summary, I can do evaluation and research, which is research methods integrated into policymaking. I do management development because I ran the management programs for 3 universities for 9 years. I wrote the subject matter, hired the instructors, authorized it, and would go in and teach. Anytime anyone fell down, I would go in. And believe me, they fall down. And just because a person has a PhD doesn't mean they're qualified to teach. That I know. I value experience over the degree. And I teach from the environments when I do teach. By that is I don't need a text. And I get a technician and I go in, I take care of the theory model. My greatest advantage to you is that I'm in behavioral systems. You and all your organizations here think in terms of a hierarchy. The hierarchy is vertical going down. I think differently. I think in terms of behavioral systems, which is input, conversion, output, impact, effectiveness, and utilization of resources. Under the conversion phase, I'm in 2 models. I use both the business administration model, task, people, structure, and technology by Levitt, and then I use the political science model, which is polyarchy, same as a monopolistic competition. And then I use the bargaining and buy and sell and non-leaders control leaders. All options are on the table. So much so when I did it for the African American Health Institute, NIH adopted it within 4 months in their minority conferences. So I generate the subject matter as a conflict between the different academic disciplines. And when I do teach, I haven't taught for a while. 96 was the last time I taught. It was in critical thinking applied to social problems. Nice little course. And but I teach by matrices. I have nothing in front of me when I teach, even in research methods and stuff. It requires high preparation. When I taught in Mexico, we had nothing in front of us, although we prepared. Okay, then also, I guess, in a way, I could even qualify as a principal investigator if you're doing a research proposal in there. I've been in judicial administration. My primary subject area was consensus, deviancy, conformity, conflict, and change. I have credibility with all types of ethnic organizations. In 1969, I was teaching black students how to bargain with the school superintendent in Pasadena. They were actually bargaining. And Ramon Cortines was next to me. He said, they shouldn't be here. I said, you're just lucky they're here, because we're going to pull them on a strike. That's why I kept my credential active. And well, I know how to cut up an organization, let's put it that way. That was my specialty, organizational change, and study LA County bureaucracy and how to change the system, okay?
Great,
And,
thank you,
but
thank you, Robert.
With all your, okay, that's enough.
I appreciate your time, thank you.
Candidate John Ahmad.
Abad.
Abad, my mistake.
John, good evening.
Hi.
I have a few instructions that I'd like to read, and we've been reading for every candidate. And you have up to 5 minutes to state to the board why you should be appointed to the vacant seat. The board will not be asking any questions. And when I say your time begins now, the green light will come on and the timer will be started. The timer is to your right, and you'll see on the edge and corner of the dais there the series of lights. When 1 minute is left, an orange light will come on, and when the timer goes off, the red light comes on, you'll need to stop. We ask you to leave the boardroom at the conclusion of your statement in order to provide all candidates a consistent experience with the appointment process. And you're welcome to return after 8:45 p.m. to be present for the board deliberations. So I'm ready to ask you to proceed, and your time begins now.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for this interview. I grew up here in San Bernardino. John Abad is my name. Abad in Spanish. And I went to Sturgis Junior High School here. It's a beautiful auditorium there. And anyway, eventually Pacific, San Bernardino Valley, 2 years, and graduated and went to UCLA on a scholarship for wrestling, for the infamous Al Lyles in San Bernardino, in Pacific High School. And basically, he was the one that kind of got me into that mode of what I was going to do in my life, because I majored in sociology. He was that kind of that mentor. And in fact, he took me to UCLA because I didn't realize that once you get a scholarship, you can still take that scholarship after 2 years at the junior college. And so I had graduated with good grades and went on, and I wrestled and graduated with a bachelor's in sociology, and then I wanted to come back to San Bernardino and do something, work in probation. But I got hooked up with the education and coaching, and eventually graduated from Cal State San Bernardino with a master's in education and master's in counseling. And eventually worked 5 years here in San Bernardino district, and there were they were cutting back, and I went to Colton. And then from Colton, I went to Fontana, and that's where I retired. After about 35 years of education, I've seen quite a bit, because I taught special ed, learning handicap credentials, counselor, master's in counseling, master's in education, and then I did a lot of coaching, trying to help a lot of the kids. And one of the things that you see, and I've come back to see the board meetings every once in a while. I've probably poked my head in. I go to the San Bernardino board meetings for the city, and it's changed. San Bernardino has changed. And if there's no funds coming in from the taxpayers, then the schools hurt, because you have to change that system too. I believe I can make a difference if I'm on the school board. I believe that I might be able to see something that other people don't. I eventually went back, because my last years as a teacher, I believed that I wanted to still work in the district. I felt I'm young. I have a lot of energy as a coach and a retired coach. I still wanted to stay active and do something here in the city. I live in the city. I lived in Redlands for about 25 years. Then I moved back here when my wife passed away. So I'm here, and just kind of I feel I'm an old man looking for a place to happen. And I went back to Cal State for a school business management certification or credential. And what happens is, you really see what happens in the school district, because it was at Fontana that we were doing that the program for organization of administration and food service workers and transportation, and where the money is. And that's what you look for, is the budget. Where's the money? What's going on? Why is it being spent in the wrong places? And you tell yourself, and you look at some of the money that's out there. Why are they spending money on something that they should be putting to the schools or to those kids or to the unfortunate programs? And yet, I have other feelings about that. Maybe I can make a difference by saying that if I'm appointed or if I'm selected, I think I can see something that other people can't. From all the experience, all those principals that rotated, all the teachers. And so I want to thank you.
Great. Thank you, John.
Okay.
Mr. President, candidate Dorothea Cartwright.
Thank you. Welcome, Dorothea.
Well, hello.
Hi there. I'm going to read a few instructions that we've been reading to everyone.
Thank you.
And you'll have up to 5 minutes to state to the board why you should be appointed to the vacant seat. the board will not be asking any questions. And when I say your time begins now, the green light will come on and the timer will be started. The green light is right on the corner of that dais, along with a couple other lights, and you see the timer right in front of you to your right. When 1 minute is left, an orange light will come on, and when the timer goes off and the red light comes on, you'll need to stop.
Okay.
We ask you to leave the boardroom at the conclusion of your statement in order to provide all candidates a consistent experience with the appointment process, and you're welcome to return after 8:45 p.m. to be present for the board deliberations. So I'm going to ask you to please proceed, and your time begins now.
Well, hello. As you know, my name is Dorothea Cartwright. I am, if you haven't read my resume, most of you have, okay, you know that I was born here in San Bernardino. I am a product of the Unified School District. And I did K through 9th. I was the ASB president at Curtis Junior High School. And I am now currently a graduate student in communications studies at Cal State San Bernardino, working on a second master's, hopefully be finished by spring of 2016. I work in the Department of English. I bring a wealth of knowledge and information that I feel could be useful to this board. I currently have a child in the school district, and so I feel that I am qualified, capable, and knowledgeable as well. I lived overseas for 5 years, family military, so I have international experience as well. I was a legal secretary. I worked at Norton Air Force Base for a number of years. I worked aerospace. I went to space and missile school, okay? So I've done a lot of things in my lifetime, and I have really enjoyed all of it. I am currently living in San Bernardino after living in Colton, Redlands, and so I'm back in San Bernardino, and I love it. So I feel that my background would be very useful to this board. I'm good.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dorothea.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your time.
Mr. President, candidate Pamela Montana.
Pamela, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm going to read a few instructions that we've been reading for the rest of the candidates, and you will have up to 5 minutes to state to the board why you should be appointed to the vacant seat. The board will not be asking any questions, and when I say your time begins now, the green light will come on and the timer will be started. You'll see it to your right, and on the corner, you'll be seeing a series of lights over there. And when 1 minute is left, an orange light will come on, and when the timer goes off and the red light comes on, you'll need to stop. We ask you to leave the boardroom at the conclusion of your statement in order to provide candidates with a consistent experience with the appointment process. You're welcome to return after 8:45 p.m. to be present for the board's deliberations. I'm going to ask you to please proceed, and your time begins now.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Pamela Montana. I was born and raised here in San Bernardino. I graduated from Cajon High School. I'm not going to say what year. I then went on to San Bernardino Valley College, where I received my AA. I then transferred to Cal State San Bernardino, and I ultimately received my BA from Cal Baptist University. I then went on to get my master's at Azusa Pacific University in curriculum and instruction. When I was younger, there were two certainties that I knew in life. One, my love of sports, and two, I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. And all that changed when I got my first experience in the real world, and I became a teacher's assistant here for San Bernardino City Unified School District. And once I entered the classroom and I worked with kids, I knew that was my calling. I still love sports, but I knew that I wanted to work with kids in that capacity. I then went on to become a substitute teacher for the district, which led to my first teaching position at Roosevelt Elementary School here in San Bernardino. I was a 4th grade bilingual teacher. I had to leave my position due to personal reasons, but when I did return, I returned as a Read 180 teacher at Muscoy Elementary. I then went on and I found a new position, and that is the position that I'm currently in, and that's serving as an educational liaison for children and family services with the County of San Bernardino. So it still allows me to, I'm still in education. I work closely with the districts and with community partners. But in this position, I find it a rare position because I get to work with foster kids. And even as a teacher, I never knew how many foster kids we have in our county, much less here in our district. So I work with kids from ages 6 to 18 years old. Of course, high school kids being a priority, getting them to graduate high school, getting them to either go to post-secondary education or vocational school. So the million-dollar question is, why do I want to fill this vacancy? Why do I think I'm the best candidate? I don't know if I'm the best candidate, to be quite honest, but I know who I am, and I know that I am the most devoted and dedicated, passionate person when it comes to kids and their education. To be able to give back to the community, to be able to give back to kids, that's a gift. I consider myself a lot of things. I am a woman, I'm a Latina, I'm an educator, I'm a mentor, and I'm an advocator. But most of all, I see myself as I'm a product of San Bernardino. This is my home. And if I can't help the kids here, then I don't feel that I'm putting myself out there. So if I can't change what I'm doing today, then tomorrow will be no different than yesterday. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you so much.
Mr. President, candidate Brian Turk.
Thank you. Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good evening, everyone.
Thanks. I'm going to read some short instructions, and then we'll begin. So you'll have up to 5 minutes to state to the board why you should be appointed to the vacant seat, and the board will not be asking any questions. When I say your time begins now, the green light will come on and the timer will be started. It's on your right, and you'll see at the corner of the dais a series of lights there.
Okay.
And when 1 minute is left, an orange light will come on, and then when the timer goes off and the red light comes on, you'll need to stop. We ask that you leave the boardroom at the conclusion of your statement in order to provide all candidates with a consistent experience with the appointment process. And you're welcome to return after 8:45 p.m. to be present for the board deliberations. So I'm going to ask you to please proceed, and your time begins now.
Thank you. First, I would like to say thank you to the board for this opportunity. I'd like to start off by revealing a small bit of my personal history, and it starts with my grandmother. My grandmother was Eleanor Lanning, and she was a 40-year teacher in the San Bernardino area, anywhere from San Bernardino City all the way out to Fontana. One of the things that she taught us growing up, and she taught her own children, was that the brightest future that you could possibly have in one of the most stable ways to make sure that that happens is through education. My aunts and uncles and my mother, needless to say, all became teachers after that. My mother was a administrator as well as a teacher, and all my aunts and uncles were teachers as well as counselors. She also cautioned us of the burden of having a well-placed education, and one of those burdens was knowing how things worked and how things went to be and all the travesties that you have to put up with as you, the intelligent person, realizes how the world works. But she also told us that we were gifted with broad shoulders to bear that burden. And so myself, I also looked to education as my own future. And so at that point, what I had decided was that I wanted to also be very involved in an education as my future. Forgive me. I guess what I'm trying to say is that, plain and simple, I believe what my grandmother taught me, and that was that education is the path, it is the way. And I believe that in a city such as San Bernardino, it's one of the bright beacons that we can also look forward to. It's one of the places that we can go to where we feel safe, where we feel as though we have importance. I felt that as a child. I felt that as a child because I came from a somewhat broken home. And the people that helped me were the teachers. The teachers wanted to help. The counselors tried to help. And as one of my dear favorite counselors, Ms. Doris Roberts, who has just passed us recently, once told me, Brian, you can do anything. I don't care where you come from, you can do anything. I believed her and I took it to heart. And I did everything that I could to make sure that I got into college. After I graduated, every job that I took as a side job while I was going to school had something to do with school. I started working at a private school as a maintenance man. I started teaching karate to children that were of ages 5 to 18. I started to coach for different sports, baseball, basketball, football, anything that I could do to be involved with children. I ended up working for the Catholic school district. And what I had done was I had actually taken a girls' basketball team that had no physical education program, and I took them all the way to the championship. I was recently reading something in The Sun, and it was called San Bernardino, A Broken City. And then there was a sequel, and they were both written by Joe Mazingo. It took place at the Country Inn. And as I was reading it, I realized that there were these parents that had abandoned their children there. There were undocumented parents that had their children there as well. But the only future that they had was an education. And he went on to say that as the children went to school during the day, there were other children who weren't allowed to go to school, but they envied them. And so I thought to myself, we have children like that all throughout San Bernardino. And it's our job as adults, as citizens, as parents, to make sure that they know that they all have that right. And I look to the council today and I say, these are people that also make sure that these children know that they have that right. As far as myself, I'm a stay-at-home dad. I have 3 children, and 2 of them are in the school system. One's in 8th grade, the other is in preschool. As I look at my 3rd child, it's my daughter, and she's 1. She's not quite ready for preschool quite yet. I say to myself, what do I want for my children? And I want a brighter future. They're going to grow up the same way that I did in San Bernardino. They're going to go to San Bernardino schools. They're going to live in San Bernardino. I want them to grow up to love San Bernardino. And if there's anything that I could do in my power to make sure that that's possible for all 3 of my children, I will not hesitate to do it. I'd like to thank all of you for your time, and I'd like to say thank you, and I love San Bernardino. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Mr. President, board candidate Kaiser Ahmed.
Great. Welcome, Kaiser.
Thank you.
I'm going to read a short series of instructions, and then we'll ask you to start. So you will have up to 5 minutes to state to the board why you should be appointed to the vacant seat, and the board will not be asking any questions. When I say your time begins now, the green light will come on and the timer will be started to your right, and on the corner there's a series of lights, small lights on the corner of the dais there. And when 1 minute is left, an orange light will come on, and when the timer goes off, the red light comes on. You'll need to stop. We ask you to leave the boardroom at the conclusion of your statement in order to provide all candidates a consistent experience with the appointment process. And you are welcome to return after 8:45 p.m. to be present for the board's deliberations. I'm going to ask you to please proceed, and your time begins now.
Good evening, Mr. President, board members, fellow teachers, and other stakeholders in the room. My name is Kaiser Ahmed. I'm a retired school teacher, a community volunteer, parent of a child with autism, a grandparent, and a school board candidate this November. I am from Bangladesh. I came here 43 years ago next month. I received my master's in economics from Long Island University in Brooklyn, New York. After that, I attended 3 other universities: University of California, Riverside campus, Claremont Graduate University, which is in Claremont, and California State University here in San Bernardino. I took numerous classes in these 3 universities toward teacher preparation and also for my doctorate. I have obtained 4 teaching credentials, 2 of which are valid for life. I taught school for 28 years, retiring in May of 2012. At the elementary school level, I taught math, reading, writing, social studies, and science. At the middle school, junior high, and high school level, I taught math and science. Since I have a learning handicap credential, I also taught for 4 years special ed with serving students with disabilities. At the college university level, I've been an adjunct faculty member for 32 years, teaching in 12 different colleges and universities in Southern California. Now, that's enough tooting my horn, and I need to tell you a little bit about what I want to accomplish. The first thing on my agenda, if I should be appointed board member, is reducing class size. On my part, whenever I had a smaller class size, I know I was more effective than when the class size was a little bit bigger. And the students benefited too. The test scores year after year showed improvement of my students. The second thing I'm interested in bilingual education. I myself grew up in Bangladesh with 3 languages, which are not even related to each other: Bengali, Arabic, and English, in that order. My mom was my first teacher and a taskmaster, introduced me to Shakespeare, Dickens, Tolstoy, Tagore, Hemingway, and many other authors from age 4 in more than 1 language. I know recent studies have proven that people with multiple language skills have delayed the advent of dementia. The third thing on my list is technical and trade education. I believe in this context, the charter schools may play a role where they could carry on vocational education, technical education, especially the programs that the district do not fully offer. The fourth on my list is parent involvement. I believe parents should have a venue where they can put their democratic input in education decisions. Together, we can develop tomorrow's teachers, doctors, plumbers, roofers, through vocational education, even school board members. Now, the last thing on my agenda is, I believe we should have our motto, making hope again, a reality by installing positive behavior, which we can accomplish by rewarding in a reward system with extrinsic values. And we can never overpraise a child. So that is a very important one. In the end, I want to give some kudos to the board. The graduation rate has definitely gone up as much as 80%. Well, I better cut it off right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kaiser. Appreciate it. Okay, everybody finished with their sheets, and I'll ask Kagem if you wouldn't mind taking us to the next step.
Thank you. On your forced ranking sheet, the last column, the far right column, is your ranking of the 10 candidates. Well, actually, you heard 9 candidates. 1 did not show up. So that is your ranking of the candidates that you saw today. The next step, Mr. President, I don't know if we want to proceed with this discussion or wait until 8:45, since we invited the candidates, if they so choose, to come back after 8:45.
I thought we were going to have the yellow sheets now. We're going to discuss the yellow sheets?
No, I will give you the yellow sheet. If you can do that.
Yeah, because that's part, what you're saying is that is part of the deliberations, right?
I
And,
feel that the public needs to know that that is part of the deliberation and that you are now engaged in it.
right, I think maybe we could do a couple things here. If all of the candidates are still here and would like to come in, then we could begin the process earlier. So let's at least evaluate whether that's occurred. Some of the candidates may have left, I don't know, but,
I don't know if.
yeah, we have a couple of candidates that are in now. And let's see, we want to make sure we give all of the candidates an opportunity to be here. So if they're not all currently here and we can't assemble them early, then we probably have no choice but to wait till 8:45.
We're checking to see if there are
Right.
candidates that are
Thank you.
outside.
We ready? Well, 44, I got 8:44, so we'll wait one more minute, and we'll do it right at 8:45. Yeah. Let me see if I can get the atomic clock in Greenwich to respond, which it just did. We now have 8:45. Pardon? Yeah.
Before sharing with you the outcome, I just want to publicly thank Karen Cunningham for the extensive support she gave me and the work she put into making this happen this evening. What I'm going to do is,
Great job, Karen.
what I'm going to do is call out a board number and those board member number, and those numbers are at random. And then after I announce the board member number, then I will identify the candidates that board selected and the score the board member gave that candidate. So we will start with board number 1. Gwendolyn Rogers, 10. Pamela Montana, 5. Kaiser Ahmed, 2. Board member number 2, Gwendolyn Rogers, 10. Kaiser Ahmed, 8. Pamela Montana, 9. Board member number 3, Kaiser Ahmed, 10. Gwen Rogers, 9. Pamela Montana, 8. Board member number 4, Gwendolyn Rogers, 10. E. Negretti, 5. K. Ahmed, 4. And board member number 5, Gwendolyn Rogers, 10. Pamela Montana, 6. Kaiser Ahmed, 5. Mr. President, I would recommend that you entertain a motion based on the numbers that we see on the Excel chart.
Okay, anybody wish to make a motion?
Second?
So move on, what is the motion? State the motion, okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to appoint Gwendolyn Rogers for the vacant position. Let's ask for any further discussion. If not, let's please vote. Looks unanimous. Congratulations to Gwendolyn Rogers. And I'd like to thank all of our candidates because, quite frankly, this was an extraordinarily qualified series of applicants, and I've read each and every one of your resumes in detail, those of you that provided them, and very impressive. And I'd like to thank all of our candidates for participating, and once again, congratulate Gwen.
I'd like to make a couple of comments.
Sure.
One, congratulations, Gwendolyn. The candidate who was selected and appointed, actually, at this point, as an appointed board member is under the same Brown Act requirements as if she's already sworn in. However, Gwendolyn is not sworn in yet, and I believe the date for the swearing in is set for September 1st. Secondly, upon the appointment, which was tonight, it is the responsibility of the governing board to publish the result of the appointment. And there are very specific requirements for that announcement. Including in that announcement will be a statement from the government code that says, and that announcement needs to be posted within 10 days from the date of the appointment. So we have 10 days from today to post the announcement of the candidate who was appointed, and also announce that the government code provides to the public 30 days from today to file for a special election if they object to the board's appointment tonight. And when those 30 days are about, then are expired, then the appointment is no longer provisional. It's called provisional appointment for tonight. She can be sworn in on September 1st, but the public will have until September 16 to file for a special election if they chose to. So I just wanted to make sure that this announcement was made public. We have prepared the announcement, and Karen will be taking care of that.
I have a question.
Great, we have a couple of questions, I think.
Yes.
Barbara?
So once she's sworn in on September 1st, she takes her seat right here
Correct.
and can participate with us?
Correct.
Okay, good, okay.
The
So-
only difference is that those days will be called a provisional appointment, but nevertheless, just as valid appointment as a regular one. And then once the 30 days pass, and you don't have to take any action. Once the 30-day pass and no petition for a special election, then she is the appointee, no longer provisional.
So the public can ask for a special election?
Correct.
And this is...
And they need to collect enough signatures
Right.
to qualify for an election.
Okay. Thank you.
And that completes my task.
Great. Any further discussion or
Move to adjourn?
entertain a motion to adjourn? Okay, all those in favor? Aye, great. Keegan, I want to thank you so much for your guidance and preparation. I think it made for a great process, open and fair. It was fabulous. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.